Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on strategies to support English learner students as a part of our Special Population Super Strategies webinar series. This is one of many in our series, and we are joined today again by our presenter, Brittany Boston, and she is with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. She is also my colleague, and my name is Kirsten Bayer with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and we will be your moderators and presenters for today. So a couple of housekeeping things just before we get started. We are on a webinar platform, so you are all in listen-only mode. If you have questions as the webinar proceeds, please post those in the question box. It's important to note that this little text box might be labeled something different based on where you're joining us from today. So if you're joining us from your mobile phone or an iPad or your computer, it might be labeled question box, it might be labeled chat, it might be labeled comment, but it's basically just a text box that you can converse back and forth with us. So please feel free to type your questions, comments, or if you're having any technical concerns through that, and we will take care of those for you. We will do a Q&A at the end of this session. Another housekeeping thing to note is that if you would like to follow along with the presentation today, please feel free to do so. You can find the slides underneath the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel, and you can download those in PDF format. This session is being recorded, and those PowerPoint slides and handouts that Brittany has for us today, as well as the recording, will be up on our website within 48 hours, and we will put that link in the chat for you as well. And also, I just wanted to note that if you do experience any audio connection issues today or any technical issues, you can always feel free to call in using the phone number that is listed in your original registration email that you received from ICSPS and the GoToWebinar platform. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Brittany Boston, today, and she will take it away.
Yes, great. Thank you, Kirsten. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As Kirsten mentioned, this is a part of a webinar series that we are doing on the special populations under Perkins V. That there are 9 special populations, and this is the 5th one we are doing, I believe. I'll be completely honest, I have lost track. We do 2 a month, but we will cover all of the special populations under Perkins V, and today we are focusing on English learner students. So for those of you who have joined us for previous webinars, you know, my format, my spiel is kind of the same for each one, just in case we have any participants on here who are not familiar with our center, the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. I do want to make sure that I kind of explain who we are, what we do, and our purpose. So we are housed within Illinois State University, and we create, support, and deliver professional development for career and technical education professionals across Illinois. We focus on equity, transition, and access, recruitment and retention, and especially as that pertains to special populations learners. And that can manifest through technical assistance or the development of publications or webinars such as this. So that's just a little background knowledge about the center and who we are. As Kirsten also mentioned, the slides from today are in the handouts. As we go on further towards the end of the webinar today, I will mention some resources and some previous webinar series that we have done that I think may be of benefit, and all of those links are in the slides from today, as well as the links for registration for upcoming webinars within this special population series. And then I have also included our FY21 professional development flyer in the handouts. You'll see that the continued webinars within the special population series are on there. We also have our ADA grant, which is our Autism Technical Assistance and Training Grant, and they do monthly meetings as well, ranging from topics of strategies and supports for individuals with autism, both in the educational environment as well as the workforce. I believe the flyer only has February listed, but I know that we do have some planned out through June. So also be on the lookout for that information if that is of interest for you. And we have a trauma series that is coming up in February as well. So please check that out. That is listed on the flyer. If you have any questions regarding any of the information on the flyer, you can always shoot me an email and I can give you some more information on that. But that's what we have coming up here in the next couple of months. So for today, as with the previous webinars, our agenda is pretty much the same. We're going to look at how Perkins V defines what it is to be an English learner student. We'll look at some possible challenges or barriers that English learner students may face, and then ways to inform and recruit them about CTE programs and the supports and services to help them be successful and continue through the programs as well. And then I also want to open it up for discussion and questions. And if at any point during the webinar today you have a comment, a question, please feel free to put those in your questions or chat feature, because I really do want this to be, although it is a webinar and we are virtual, I'd like it to be as engaging and conversational as we possibly can. You know, it's one thing for me to sit here and talk at you, but as programs, as instructors, as teachers, as staff yourselves, it's so much more beneficial to hear from you guys and hear what your questions are, where you feel those gaps may be, what you feel you're doing to help successfully support these students. So please don't ever feel like you're interrupting me. I love to hear the questions. I love the conversation. And then as I had mentioned, I'll also talk over some additional resources that we have put together as a center that may be of use to you. So let's go ahead and jump on in here. So who are English learner students? So when we're talking specifically for the secondary system, we will look at ESSA. It says Elementary and Secondary Education Act under Perkins V. That's what they listed it as, but it is now ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so we'll go into further a little bit what their definition of an English learner is. But for Perkins V, it's defined as an adult or an out-of-school youth who has limited ability in speaking, reading, writing, or understanding the English language. And so this is an individual whose native language is another language other than English, or who lives in a family environment or community in which a language other than English is the dominant language. So ESSA goes into a bit more specifics when defining what an English learner student means. So age 3 through 21, and they are enrolled or preparing to enroll in elementary or secondary school. They were not born in the United States, or their native language is a language other than English. And then you can see it lists more out there. It specifically mentions Native American or Alaskan Native. And again, just further emphasizing the predominant language not being English, either their first language or living within a community where the predominant language is other than English. And then again, further emphasizing those difficulties or skills in speaking, reading, writing, or understanding the English language. So what are some potential barriers or challenges that English learner students may face? And I do want to preface by saying this is in no way an all-encompassing list of barriers or challenges. We all know that it is very much dependent on each individual student and their life experiences, as far as what those barriers are. And the three that are listed here are more of an umbrella. We absolutely could spend time narrowing down and really diving deeper into each one listed here, but to keep it sort of concise, that the lack of awareness and cultural sensitivity. And again, like I mentioned, this is more of an umbrella category because we could say this is an issue on a societal level, a programmatic level, an institutional level. I mean, we could break it down as far as we could go as to that awareness of, you know, immigration status and what that means and the protections that are available to them, and where those protections may fall short. Cultural sensitivity, we know that they're based on your culture, there are different words and body language and nonverbal cues that mean different things. And so the lack of awareness and sensitivity with that. And then also inconsistent referral systems. And I think this is one that could really broach all students, not just English learner students, but making sure that we can be as consistent as possible within our referral systems, both to support services and outside agencies, and just keeping that pathway as straight and narrow as we possibly can, and making sure that there's consistency within that. And then lack of challenging and relevant coursework. You know, we know that as for English learner students, obviously there's certain curriculum and content that needs to be covered, and we want to meet the student where they are, absolutely. But making sure that we're also growing along with them within the curriculum and within the content that we are covering there. And I also apologize, my sinuses are in overdrive. So if there's a brief pause, it's because I'm taking a drink of water. So please bear with me. Okay, so let's jump into some ways that we can inform and recruit our students. And so again, just a brief explanation here when I'm using the terms informing and recruiting. As I've shared with previous webinars, when we're looking at the secondary system, we're not necessarily recruiting by definition our students into our CTE programs, more so as we are informing and educating them on their options and the benefits of CTE programs. But I know for the post-secondary system, recruitment is a term that we use quite often, because depending on where the potential student is located, they may have several options that they can choose from. And so that really is, when we're talking about the community college system, that term recruitment really does come into play there. So we want to make sure that we are providing training for staff. And when I say staff, I mean all staff: administrators, counselors, instructors, teachers, anyone who, you know, is working with the student on a firsthand basis, and just providing training on current immigration laws, and not only the protections that are provided under those laws, but also the limitations as well. And now I know that we have a new administration that will be taking the reins here in the next few days. And so how that is going to impact things, unfortunately, I don't have my crystal ball, so I can't really answer that. But making sure that we are staying abreast and staying up to date on any changes or amendments that take place to the immigration laws, and how that impacts our students and our students' families as well. Making sure that we are translating enrollment documents, any information about support services, resources, really any information that goes out to our students' families. If there is a language that is spoken within your community that is one other than English, and you have students that are participating in your school, in your programs, it is very important to have those documents translated and available to them in their native language. And again, just that caveat down there that English learners may be entitled to other support services that can help them overcome any of those barriers that may not be related to their English proficiency, right? So we may have an English learner student who is also a single parent, and so they may need information on childcare and supports in that aspect. And so making sure that we're really looking at the information that we are providing to our students and that we're providing it in a format that is accessible to them. And then making sure that we're sharing information with our students and with our families on how to request translation or interpretation services. And you can see there that I say providing that information to every parent or guardian, and I should also include student in there as well. We don't necessarily want to single out one student or the other. There's no harm in sharing that information with all of our students, with all of our families, letting them know that these services are available. And especially when you're talking about the post-secondary system, you don't know where your potential students are. And so you may have a student who is currently enrolled and sees this information that there are translation and interpretation services available, and they have a friend who may benefit from that. And so that student calls up their friend and says, hey, this program I think could really be of benefit to you. So making sure that we are being as transparent as we possibly can with the services and supports that are available. And then if possible, ensuring that enrollment forms make it clear that a social security number is not required. And then if you have enrollment forms that are being completed online, making sure that you're including instructions on how to null that social security number field and either have it not be a required field or have a generated number, a student ID number, whatever the case may be, that can be put within that field. Excuse me, sorry. And then making sure that we're training all employees who do registration and enrollment on the proper procedures for enrolling English learner students. And I think we could even take this a step further when we're talking about even front office staff, the individuals who may be that first line of contact for potential students, answering the phone, or when we were face to face and having people walk in, being that in that front office and being the first person that they speak to, making sure that they are also aware and knowledgeable of the procedures put in place and who should be contacted and when they should be contacted, and if that person is unavailable, what is the next step. So making sure that all employees are at least somewhat aware of this procedure so they know who to go and how to help out these potential students. Okay, so now we're going to jump into some supports and services. So one of the ones that I have up here, which I've had on several of the webinars, is, again, that information, education, knowledge, right, is key. We all need more of it, and it's something that is never going to not be needed. So making sure that we're providing staff and students with training on Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which is an act that prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin. And there are some additional protected classes under the Office for Civil Rights and all that goes in there, but just making sure that we as educators are aware of these laws that are in place, but also students and their families. They need to know what their rights are because you can't advocate for your rights if you don't know what they are. So educating and informing everyone that we can about how these classes are protected. And then revising, or just honestly, even just simply reviewing, right? Because we got to start reviewing first our school and institutional policies to make sure that they are supportive of undocumented students. And if they need to be revised, having those conversations, getting that process started, and making sure that those revisions, if needed, are hitting everything. They're hitting our student handbook, they're hitting our websites, they're hitting our social media accounts, they're hitting our teacher handbooks. Any place that a student may come across the information, that we are as welcoming and accepting as we possibly can be. And along those same lines, releasing an official statement showing your support for undocumented students. And I think that while we are specifically talking about English learner students, I apologize, I keep wanting to say English language learner students. And while this can include undocumented students, we want to make sure, we always talk about, we want our students to see themselves within the program. We want potential students to look at our website or look at the images that we are putting out about our programs, or the language that we are using to describe our programs and the students that are participating. We want potential students to see themselves in there. We want them to feel as though this is an environment that is going to support them, and this is an environment that is going to assist them in meeting their goals and being successful. And just, making a statement to showing your support is one way that that can occur. And then also developing partnerships with local entities to cover any gaps in services. And this is one that you will see on all of the webinars discussing special populations learners, because as an educational institution, there's only so much that we can do. There's only so much support that we can provide. And so making sure that we are partnering within our community with the other agencies who can provide those additional supports. And as you can see there, I have some listed. Again, that's by no means an exhaustive list, and depending on the area you find yourselves in, you may have additional agencies and entities that you can partner with. So definitely doing some digging and some research to see what agencies are out there to help meet the needs of our students. And then when we're looking at curriculum and actual education in the classroom work, making sure that the curriculum is relevant, embedding stories, readings, perspectives that really focus on the history, immigration, the community. Also modeling being a language learner, either yourself as an instructor or their peers, whether that is in school projects where they may share certain aspects of their culture or traditions. Participating as the teacher, as the instructor, sharing some of your culture traditions that they can learn from, just like we ask that they share theirs. I think being able to learn from each other, and like I said earlier, knowledge is everything. And so learning from each other not only models that language learner behavior, but it also builds that connection. When you learn more about people outside of that educational aspect, you help build that connection in those relationships with your instructors, with your peers, and getting that sense of connection with them. Also using a variety of teaching modalities to accommodate the various learning styles. This is also one that is across the board for all students, and really looks at, I will mention previous in the additional resources. I'll talk about some universal design for learning webinar series that we have on our website, but that's kind of the concept here, is that as students, whether you qualify as a special population or not, everyone learns and takes in information differently, and making sure that we are accommodating those learning styles as best as we can. And then ensuring all learners are included in career development activities and work-based learning options. And again, we could dive deeper into this if we wanted to, as it pertains to the Office for Civil Rights, but making sure that when you are partnering with employers and individuals in the workforce for these career development activities, or these work-based learning options, that it is clear that they are not allowed to discriminate based on race, color, or national origin, or sex of the student either. And whether that is in a contract that is agreed upon, that is signed, but that does need to be known, and that information needs to be included in there. And then limiting the amount of time that English learner students are pulled out of class for separate instruction. As I had mentioned before, when it comes to English learner students, obviously we are meeting the student where they are, and they may need some additional support and instruction that their peers may not need, but making sure that we are still giving them ample opportunity and time to interact with their peers and build those relationships and friendships. And not only building those friendships, but also learning those, the new skills, the social skills, the cultural norms, that some may need to be seen firsthand rather than just taught or spoken about. And so really helping with that sense of belonging. I'm hopeful that throughout the webinar series, if you have caught some, you have seen the overarching concept of how important it is for students to feel connected in some way, whether that is to their peers or an instructor or counselor. That sense of connection and support and belonging plays a huge role in not only attracting potential students to our programs, but also assisting them in continuing on throughout the program as well. So some more supports and services here, just making sure that, we're weaving multiple languages into institutional and program events and celebrations. So not just the administrative tasks, the administrative side of that, but as I had mentioned, kind of modeling being an English language learner, helping our students and our faculty and staff, allowing it to be an educational opportunity for all to learn about different cultures and different traditions, and really promoting those and celebrating those across not only your school but the campus. And that can be done in multiple ways, whether it's a newsletter that's sent out. If you have a newsletter that's sent out every month, maybe covering, having something highlighted every month based on the month and what may be going on as far as celebrations or anything along those lines, or, posters or flyers in the hallways. However far and in depth you would like to take that, just making sure that we really are educating and celebrating our differences. And then making sure that everyone is aware of which languages are spoken. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone as best as we can, whether that is administrative staff, educational staff, the front office, the food services employees, the janitorial staff. I mean, just making sure that everyone is aware of the languages that are within the school, within campus, and within the institutional community. And then again, this consider peer mentoring options that pulls in that sense of connection, that sense of belonging. Doing peer mentoring options, either a cohort within a class or even just a study group facilitated by a bilingual individual or a multicultural club. I mean, just being able to have students interact with each other and learn from each other on a level that is maybe deeper than being in a classroom together and, you know, learning history or welding or whatever the case may be, having them be able to dive a little deeper and see that they have peers who have experienced the same things they have or are going through the same things that they are going through. And again, like I mentioned, that really helps strengthen that sense of connection to our institutions, to our programs. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys, and I apparently need to give my voice a break here too for a little bit. So this is the part where I'm going to rely on you to discuss, converse, ask questions. So I have 2 questions that I want to throw out to participants today and see what their input is as to how you feel your institution is currently supporting English learner students, and are you seeing any gaps? Are there areas where you could improve, where you see possibilities for partnerships within your community? And then what questions do you have for me? So I'm going to throw all 3 of those out there at you. I'll give it a minute to let you guys collect your thoughts, and if you want to share any comments or questions, I will be happy to do my best to answer.
So to start us off, Brittany, we had a comment from Angela. She said that this lack of awareness and cultural sensitivity goes both directions. Americans making assumptions of them and students making assumptions or basing expectations off of their culture instead of America. So I think that's
Yeah,
a good point that she's bringing to the discussion.
absolutely. And I think that pulls into play, you know, some of the things that I shared as far as um, highlighting, you know, different cultures or modeling being a language learner, making sure that all parties involved are having those conversations and, you know, sharing different aspects of their culture, and really educating and learning from each other, I think is huge. It goes far beyond Perkins and special populations, but that is definitely key.
Absolutely. Anna says, do other institutions allow additional time on exams for English learners? What criteria do you use to determine qualifications?
Okay, and I am going to rely on the programs and schools on the call today. So if you would like to share, if you do allow additional time for English learners on exams, how is that determined? What qualifiers do these students have to meet in order to be given that additional time? And so I will allow additional time for those comments and answers to come in. And I'm going to switch over here to let you know if some of the continued webinars that will be taking place for this series. So January, later, the 27th in January, we will be discussing students with disabilities. And then in February, we are going to look at those students that are interested in non-traditional fields, and also take a deeper dive into teen parents, single parents, and pregnant mothers. And then I believe in March, I only wanted to give you 3 at a time because I didn't want to overwhelm anybody, but in March, I believe we're finishing out the series with out of workforce individuals as well. So that is what is coming down the pike for the Special Populations webinar series.
We have a answer for your question, Anna. Vida, I apologize if I'm butchering your name, says that they use RTL or MTSS to justify allowing differentiation for students when test taking. And then we have another question or another comment that came in. Khan says our district offers a lot of services for ELLs, but one of the biggest problems is the demand is overwhelming. There's too many different languages and not enough translators. Within a country, there may be several different languages spoken.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree with that. And so in no way, shape, or form are we saying that you aren't doing these things. I have full faith that programs and institutions are doing these things, but you're right. The demand is there, but the resources are not. And so doing the best that we can with what we have, and partnering with local agencies and entities if available, to help fill any of those gaps, when and if we can. But yes, I completely agree that the demand is there, but those resources are lacking in certain aspects, absolutely, which can be frustrating. I understand, yes. Okay, so I'm going to continue on my way, but please feel free if you have any other comments or questions, to throw those in the chat, because like I said, I know I personally love hearing from you guys, and I'm sure the other individuals and programs on the phone love hearing from actual programs themselves as well. So here are some additional resources that I felt could be excuse me, of benefit. So as I had mentioned, this is a webinar series that we are doing for all 9 of the special populations. So the first link is to the super strategies that this series is based off of, as well as the previous webinars and recordings that we have done. So if you have not seen those, or if you've missed a webinar, please feel free to utilize those and share those out with anyone you may feel benefit from them. And then a few months ago, we did a recruitment, engagement, and retention webinar series. It was focused on adult education, and there were several adult education programs who presented and shared. Excuse me. But I think it was a great series looking at how we can recruit, engage, and retain our students using social media, whether that is Facebook or Twitter, TikTok, but really utilizing the virtual platform and social media, which is where many, I won't say all, but many of our potential students are, and how to utilize those platforms to reach potential students, and inform them about our programs and the benefits. So check that out. It was a great series, lots of informative content from actual programs, which to me is key. I can talk to you all day, but hearing from an actual program, in my opinion, means so much more. And then the Universal Design for Learning webinar series. We have done a couple of series pertaining to Universal Design for Learning. Some have been ICSPS and SIPDC. Some have been with CAST, which is more the national focus of Universal Design for Learning. But UDL is that concept that I had mentioned earlier, about the different learning styles and how to really form our curriculum, our classroom, our instruction style around those different learning styles and being accommodating to all of our learners. So check that one out as well. And as always, please feel free to jump around and browse our website. We have quite a bit of content. We work with the workforce as well. So when it comes to content for employers, or if you have a question and you don't want to, I know you guys are busy, and if you don't have free time to just browse around on our website, please feel free to send me an email, which there's my email address. And if there's a topic area that you want more information on, please feel free to contact me. And if we have anything that we've done regarding that, I will let you know, or I might be like, hey, that's a great idea, and I'll take it to Amy and see if we can, run with it. So we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the system and being as helpful and informative as we possibly can be. So thank you for joining me today. If you have any additional questions, you can put those in there, or if you have specific questions about special populations or anything, any of the professional development coming up, you can always send me an email and I will do my best to be of assistance. So Kirsten, I don't think we have any additional questions.
Nope, there are no additional questions or comments, but I did want to reiterate that this was recorded, and if you'd like to share it out, you can find the recording on our website. I'll put that in the chat now, and you can find the recording and the documents from today within 48 hours of this live session.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today, and enjoy the rest of your day.